Okay, it says I'm live, so I must be live. So, can somebody, if there is anybody here, and there are 6 people here, let me know if it's working. I'm gonna turn this camera around a bit because it isn't where it needs to be, and it's messing me around again because I hate this camera. That's even worse. Hang on. Here we go. That's about right. It moved again. Stop that you fucking thing. And I shouldn't swear in the first few minutes of the video, but it is what it is. Let me just ram that around. Hi, Peter. How you doing? Can you hear me okay? Is everybody happy? I've got tons of liquids today. I've got my St. Ali coffee mug. I've got mineral water. I've even got oolong tea from a Chinese grocery store. So I think I'll be caffeinated, and also I will be hydrated enough for the thing. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Not sure how many people are going to turn up because I'm doing this live stream a day early because there's stuff to do tomorrow. Hi, Deborah. How's everything down in Lurichwa? Good. I'm glad you can hear me. I had trouble with my microphone, then I hit the little switch and found out it was turned off. But I thought I'd put this microphone on because it looks a lot more professional. Yeah, interesting stuff happening at the moment. 7 people, so we've got one more person. Hello to everybody. Yeah, tomorrow's going to be a bit rammed for us. I've got a doctor's appointment. I've got to take the car in to get damaged bumper fixed, all this kind of stuff. So I'm doing this a day early. Bloody beautiful sunrise. Good day for gardening. Yeah, we got a cloudless sky here. Not going to get any rain. It's warming up. The days are starting earlier. It's all good. And I've also had 2 meat pies from down at Daniel's Meat Pies. So everything's Archie here. Anybody ever watched the Archies? That was a great show. It wasn't Banana Splits level great, but it was a good show. Yeah, this one's unplanned. I haven't got any plans for what I'm doing. I've got a couple of things, but for the most part, it's just going to be interacting with the chat, having a bit of a buzz, and seeing how it goes. And also, I've had 4 hours sleep last night, so we'll see how we go. Deborah grew up with the Archies on TV. Yeah, I think Archies were. Josie and the Pussycats were cooler, and the movies even better. But Archies were pretty good. Peter says, Jughead was my hero. You got to look upwards a little bit, Peter, because Jughead was an asshole. He's non-binary, I think, in the Riverdale TV series or something like that, or at least asexual or something like that. He's somewhere on the rainbow spectrum. But yeah, interesting things happening in the world. I'm not going to talk about them, but you know what I mean. Weird shit with stochastic terrorists, but yeah, I'm going to try to avoid that on the live stream because there's just so much commentary about it at the moment that it's kind of superfluous for me to do it. I did watch a couple of 1960s films last night, and I'll probably do these at the end of the month when I do the movies I've watched at the end of the month. Doug says, I'm confused. Is it Monday? Where did Sunday go? No, hi. Yeah, Sal's asleep. So I'm running. Hi, Doug. I'm running solo today. And because of commitments I've got tomorrow morning, I can't do the live stream tomorrow morning. Hi, Colgers. Greetings from Latvia. Love the channel. I had so many great recommendations from you. My pleasure. That's what the channel's about, is recommending the good stuff to people. And getting a bit cooler in Latvia this time of year, so stay warm. I kept getting Latvia mixed up with Latveria, which is Dr. Doom's country, but I will try to get it right for you. Yes, I watched a couple of movies last night that I grabbed out of my imprint collections and had a great time with them. 1960s groovy movies. I may do a full video about these. I'm just not sure at the moment. But I watched Danger Diabolic with John Philip Law, Marissa Mel, um, Michelle Piccoli's in it, Adolfo Celli, Terry Thomas. Directed by Mario Bava. Great Ennio Morricone soundtrack, and I just loved rewatching it. Marissa Mel is fantastic, and the one thing I want from this movie, excuse me, the one thing I want from this movie is that giant circular bed that Diabolic and Eva have. I haven't got room for it. I'd have to put it in the backyard. But that bed is next level cool. And the cats would love it. Sal and I would probably love it. And that big kind of multimedia stand in the middle of it is very groovy as well. Though their TV is a little small for my tastes. But I loved Danger Diabolic again last night. It's one of the early imprint ones. It's number 12 in the imprint releases, and they're now above 500. So, great movie. This edition is kind of rare now. It's a collector's edition, but I really loved watching that. Hi, Tom. Thomas says, I watched Danger Diabolic thanks to your recommendation. I thought it was better than any James Bond movie in the 60s. Yeah, it had Marissa Mel in it, of course. And of course, it had Adolfo Celli from Thunderball. But great stuff. And Michelle Piccoli playing it straight is kind of fun in that. And I finished watching this one this morning because I went to bed trying to get some sleep. And so I watched The President's Analyst with James Coburn. Just so much fun. Seven Dardens in it, Godfrey Cambridge. When was this one? This is number 42 in the imprint list, but I thought they were a good double feature. And the thing I keep forgetting about The President's Analyst is that at its core, it's science fiction. It's about an AI takeover, though it's not really framed as that until the last 10% of the movie. Doug says, where would you find bed linen for the cool circular bed? You get it from the guy who sells you the bed. And also, you got the pillow problem because there are pillows all around the outside rim of that big circular bed, which is also a bit of a spiral. Incredible bed, though. And I wouldn't go with white sheets. I think I'd probably go with something like teal. I think a teal version of that bed would be fantastic. And I'd be up for that. And the cats would like it. And in that big multimedia thing in the center, I'd put a bar fridge as well. I think what that bed is screaming for is a bar fridge full of snacks and drinks. But yeah, I enjoyed both of those. Really good fun. Very groovy 1960s. Deborah says, Boomer Doug, you can make your own bed linen or pay someone like me to do it for you. Yeah, that's the way to do it. You get a Tasmanian seamstress to do your linen for you. My problem is I always have trouble with pillows. It's hard for me to get a pillow I really like. And I usually go with a memory foam one so that I can scrunch it into the shape I want it to be. Pillows are a whole thing. I've got a couple of other pillows, but I bought them and they don't really suit me and they don't really go well with my neck. But yeah, Doug says always wanted a bed with Matt Helmet, but dumped him in the giant bath. I wouldn't mind that one, particularly if it had Lovey Craze in it. But the problem I'd have with that is, what if the thing's short circuited and you're having a sleep and it dumps you in the water and you drown? Hi, Renee says, Jambara, how you doing? You're not particularly late. Let's see how far we're in. We're only 9 minutes into this debacle. So yeah, something I wanted to bounce off, chat, and it kind of is related to world events in a slightly oblique way. I got some comments on the channel about the last video, which I did about the long walk. And somebody complained that I was doing too much politics in the chat. Oh, sorry, in the video. And for me, this movie is really innately a very political movie. So I'm going to bring my beliefs in politics into my reviews of this. So I just want to see how chat feels about that, because I think with movies like that, which is a contemporary movie and a very interesting movie, and my friend Grant Watson says it's the best movie he's seen this year, and I respect Grant's opinion. I don't know that it is for me, but The Long Walk is a really interesting and powerfully political movie. So, how do people feel about me when it's appropriate and when the movie leads me towards speaking about the politics of it and how it relates to the real world? How do people in the chat feel about that? I'll leave you guys just a moment or two to be a keyboard warrior on that one, because I do want the feedback. If I need to dial back on the politics a little bit, I can do that. If it seems to be appropriate, I'll continue at the level I'm doing it. Deborah says, I think it was Gustav Klimt who said all art is political. I can believe that. Um, I think everything except Ken Doan paintings is probably political. Hi, Bedhead. Mag's not here. She's sleeping at the moment, but I'm here and all of the lovely people in chat are here. So, yeah, I mean, I was just one of the things at the moment is that even talking about politics is a minefield on social media these days. And I'm not going to go into the depths of politics, just the stuff around it. Tom says, I'm into politics. I'm good for what you have to say about it. Thank you, Tom. But Doug says, we watch for Terry being Terry, unfiltered, uncensored, and authentic. So, yeah, say what you want to. Thanks, Doug. I appreciate that feedback, mate. I appreciate all your feedbacks because, like everybody else, I have my self doubts. And without feedback, we can tend to go off range. And I'm okay to receive feedback, particularly from a trusted group of people whose opinions and support I appreciate. Peter says, say what you like, Terry. Your freedom of speech has never been curtailed. You review how you see fit. Thanks for that. I mean, I'm not going to say who did it. They come on chat sometimes, and I respect them in a lot of different ways. But I just wanted feedback on that because not every movie I'm talking about is going to be political or even have a political aspect to it. But The Long Walk was designed when it was written by Stephen King in the 1960s to be a critique of conscription and the Vietnam War. Deborah says, actually, I would argue Ken Doan is the epitome of politics in his time. Greed. Yeah, facile greed. Uh, this is a story. I'll tell you the story about me and Ken Doan. I was flying back from New Zealand, my first overseas trip in 1988. My then wife and I travelled to New Zealand and we flew back from Christchurch. We'd done the North Island, we went down to the South Island and finished the trip in Christchurch. Night before I leave, we have a Chinese meal. And 1980s New Zealand Chinese food was, let's just say, basic. So I got food poisoning, is what I'm saying. And so I get on this plane and I'm flying across the ditch from New Zealand to Sydney. And halfway there, I start getting stomach cramps and start sweating like you would not believe. And so I've got full on food poisoning. And then I've got to go through customs. And so I'm going through customs looking like Billy Hayes in Midnight Express. I'm sweating, I'm shivering. I'm about to poo my guts out. And the first thing I see when I get out of the torture of going through customs, nothing happened in customs. We had like 4 bottles of gin, but that was okay at the time, is an enormous Ken Dome painting. And as soon as I saw it, I rushed to the toilet and threw up. So that's the Ken Dome story. Chat says, D. Lee says, compared to other online critics who bring their agendas to the reviews because their agenda is the point, you're subdued. I prefer your brand of critical sobriety. Thank you. I appreciate the way that's phrased too. That's really nice. FG says expressing political views in a review of a film with a political message is appropriate. It doesn't bother me at all. And Deborah says, seriously, each their own. I'm really keen to see The Long Walk because you're talking about the political angle. It's a good film, Deborah, whether you see it on streaming or in the cinema. I think it's going to be a movie that'll sit with you for a while, but it's powerful. Renaissance Chambara says, art is political by its nature, as you have to bring in your interpretation of it. The Long Walk would have felt different if made in the late 1990s. Yeah, it would have. I think this is the right time for it to be made, to be honest with you. I'm glad they didn't make a version of it in the 80s or 90s or even the 2000s. I think this is the moment when it hits hardest politically. And so that makes it a much more powerful film. And the Francis Lawrence, the director, and J.T. Molnar, the writer, aren't the kind of people that pull punches. There says throwing up to Ken Doan is the appropriate response. It wasn't a response I wanted at the time. I wanted to get somewhere safe and curl up in a ball and have a toilet and a bucket nearby. Renaissance Chambara says, also, even if you don't agree, surely rejecting other opinions loses the spirit of the forum. Yeah, I know that some people are alienated, but when I talk politics, because I'm not talking their politics. And I'm kind of okay with that. I think you've got to draw your own line in the sand. And the politics that I espouse is not the same as the politics, say, a more conservative American fan of mine who likes the movie reviews but doesn't like the politics is going to accept. And I'm kind of cool with that. I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not or diminish something I am because somebody's slightly uncomfortable with it. Renaissance Chambara says, I think The Long Walk was also a critique of poverty. Reminds me of 13 and this film I can't name about 1930s dance marathons. They shoot horses, don't they? Yeah, it is about basically the privileged manipulating and using the poor. I mean, that's there are a whole bunch of parallels in The Long Walk. There's the critique of the Vietnam War. There's a critique of privilege versus poverty. You can use it as a critique of professional sport because ultimately the long walk is a sport. There are a whole bunch of different parallels you can make, and also a critique of the trends in American politics in the current era. So all of that's in there, and all of that's explicit and implicit in the narrative. But shit, it's a powerful little film. $20 million. Boomer Doug says, I'm still baffled to this day how Ken Dome became so popular. The 1980s were a weird time. We found out that screwing people could kill you, and people just wanted pastel and pretty. And Ken Dome did that. It was corporate art at its most corporate, and it was marketed that way. And it was the kind of thing that lovies living in their little house in Balmoral on Sydney Harbour really doted on. So it got very popular. Doug says, I love they shoot horses, don't they? Totally unrelated. Rewatch Cap Blue. Fun movie. It is. And I really like the choir they've got of Stubby K and Nat King Cole narrating the film. I just love that. I think it works incredibly well as a theme and a frame around the narrative. I think without those two, Cat Blue would have been a lot less a film. Deborah agrees with Renaissance Chambara. I'd rather rewatch commentators who have something interesting to say than live inside a bubble. Yeah, I mean, that's something I'm really trying not to do is live in a bubble. I will read stuff by people who disagree with me politically, but only up to a certain point. There's a certain kind of political stuff, and we're getting into politics, but this is where the talk and the live stream is trending, so I'm going to go with it. There's a new phenomenon and a new idea that's come out that I find very interesting. By the way, Luna is meowing, but I'm not going to let her out because I'm not going to stop it. It's called stochastic terrorism. and it's a kind of terrorism where you don't actually have to get your hands dirty. You can espouse a whole bunch of really horrible beliefs, fascist, neo-Nazi, sexist, transphobic, homophobic, hey, loony, all those, and the point of doing that is, the more you talk about it and the more powerfully you talk about it, the more likely someone is to pick up the cudgel and do it. So you're deliberately espousing beliefs and espousing violent rhetoric but not explicitly saying go out and kill people. But you're creating an environment in which it's more likely that people will do that. And that's stochastic terrorism. And it's with social media, it's got hormonal boosts by this effect of social media. Dealey says dog whistle terrorism. Yeah, and essentially it is. What you're doing is you're encouraging people to act violently because they agree or they have been programmed by your uh, talks. And people like the late Mr. Kirk, sorry, not the late Mr. King, he was a good guy. The late Mr. Kirk was stochastic terrorists. And we have them in Australia. Pauline Hanson is. Um, Jacinda Nabajimpa Price is here. Ralph Babbitt is. We've got stochastic terrorists in our parliaments. And that's a very worrying thing. It's something we've really got to find ways to combat. Deborah says, They Shoot Horses is a great movie. It is, and incredibly well acted. Racist Chambara says, I suspect that the political lines aren't left, right, progressive, conservative, libertarian versus socialism now. I think it's nihilism versus altruism. Rhetoric has always been a weapon for good and bad. Yeah. There's an incredibly powerful thing that was said, I think, by Ben Chifley, who was a Labor politician in the 1940s here in Australia. And Chifley said, and he was talking about the Labor Party, but this is about this is about progressive politics, is that the point of progressive politics is to lead people toward a light on the hill of a light of education, a light of safety and security, where they can aspire to being the best they can be. And the whole point of progressive politics is to make it easier for people to reach that light on the hill. And I think that's an incredibly powerful metaphor. And it's something I've always believed in because I'm one of the people that needed help to get toward anything like a light on the hill. And it took me a long time to get it. But you're right, Renaissance Chambara. There are people who just want the world to burn so that they can sift through the ashes. And there are people who want the world to be better. Hi, Dennis. How you doing? One of our Canadian allies, one of the people fighting the good fight in this great white north. Yeah, it's interesting too because I found out really kind of through subterranean means that one of the things that the Australian and Canadian governments are doing is getting together to form alliances and workarounds for particular issues not terribly far south for you, Dennis. So I think the alliances between Canada and Australia are only going to get stronger for many, many good reasons. And we've also got a similar worldview, which I really appreciate. But yes, I've watched those two movies. I'm still ahead of the game on this year's movies, by the way. They're the two for those who came in late that I've watched. Yeah, the goal this year is to watch a movie a day, and I'm about 10 days ahead of it. So if I decide to crack the shits and just not watch any movies for a week, I'm still ahead of the game. And I think I'm going to do that ongoing. I've got to watch a movie a day. I'll usually binge 2 or 3 in a row. And then if I need to take a day off or if life intervenes and I've got to do something, I'm still ahead of the game there. And I do have them on my letterboxd, which I will give you the link to in case you don't have it. There it is there, and that's where I put up everything I watched, and I've done it for the last 11 years. You can actually go through the lists on my letterbox and see all the movies I've watched over the last 11 years, and I sometimes do that myself. Francis Chambara says, "I just finished PTU, going to work my way through the PTU Tactical Unit universe." What's PTU? I'm not familiar with that, I don't think, but I'm curious. I'm PTU curious. As far as gaming is concerned, I've just been doing Skyrim because I like creating new characters in Skyrim and taking them to the limit and fighting things. Skyrim's been out for 12 years now, and they keep adding mods and downloadable content to it. And it's a medieval kind of sword and sorcery world. But shit, it lands well. Deborah says, I should start using Letterboxd again. Yeah, it's once you get into the habit of it, it's pretty easy. And there's also a mobile app, so I can do it on the mobile. Racist Chambara says, Johnny Toe film similar to Kurosawa's Stray Dogs, but early 2000s Hong Kong. Yeah, I've seen a couple of Johnny Toe films. Stray Dogs on my list. I've actually got a copy of Stray Dog, but there's a couple of Japanese movies, which oddly, I was looking at a video where the actor Bill Hader was recommending Japanese films. And I'm just looking up the names of the other ones that I've got there. There's one from 1960, which has got a great title called Take Aim at the Police Van. So I've found a copy of that and I'm going to be watching that. And I'm also going to watch Seijun Suzuki's Youth of the Beast because I've got a copy of that as well. Deborah says Skyrim is great, but Oblivion and Fallout New Vegas are my faves. Yeah, that's fair enough. I've got a copy of Oblivion for my Xbox, which is over here and is currently not in use because it's covered in stuff I've got to put away. But I prefer gaming on the PC these days because the load times are a lot less on my PC because I've got a fairly powerful PC for video editing. So if I put a game on there, the CPU and the GPU mean that the game loads faster, and that works for me. But yeah, Skyrim and Destiny are my two go-tos. There's a new Destiny DLC coming out in December, and I may throw my Christmas money. And yes, I still get Christmas money. Sal gives me Christmas money, and I give her Christmas money to spend on what you like. And my in-laws give me Christmas money as well in a Christmas card. They used to do it in a Christmas card, but now we just do this thing where we tell them how much they got to spend, and they tell us how much we've got to spend, and we just spend the money. So we don't have to pay up for their Christmas money, but that then goes to our Christmas money. So I'm going to spend part of my Christmas money on the Destiny DLC that comes out in December. And that, of course, means I watch less movies and get fewer videos done. But that's the way it is. By the way, for people who are wondering, the family thing that stopped me on my last travel video, it's kind of settled down. There are still ongoing issues with a family member who is Sal's niece, but we're hopeful and we're kind of everybody's bonding together and seeing how that goes. But now and then, and then this may happen in the future, there are going to be times when unexpectedly I've got to change the schedules for the videos because of the family things, and also Sal's father is not particularly well, so we're going to have to just make allowances for that if you possibly could, because um, I'm not very scheduled. I'm usually doing videos 12 hours before they're released. I may have to change that and do them a little bit earlier if I can, but life over the next year maybe is going to interfere with the schedules of the videos somewhat. Race Jambara, they're LPs. I've got one Laserdisc. I've actually got two Laserdiscs. They are all LPs, and I haven't got my turntables set up. Before the end of the year, I want to get this whole man cave sorted out. I'm going to ditch a lot of stuff and get it in a more usable condition. And part of that's going to be playing LPs on my turntable. The laser discs I've got the Jolson Story and Jolson Sings Again, which I found in an op shop in Bendigo. And I got them. I did a whole video about this. I got them from this op shop because I didn't want racist people who like actors wearing blackface to have them. So I've actually got them up in the back computer room. But I don't have a laserdisc player. They weren't that big in Australia. But occasionally you'll see laserdiscs. And they're usually only like $3 or $4 at op shops. And so I don't think I'd be adverse to picking up a few more. You guys can't see it, but there's a raven sitting up on the outside my window here. Dennis says, have I watched the recent Diabolic trilogy from the Minetti brothers? Kino Lorber just released it. Straight up takes from 3 of the comic book stories. No, I haven't, but Kino Lorber's expensive here, unfortunately. But I'm going to look out for them. I like Diabolic. And also all of those other 1960s fumetti and comic book adaptations. Deborah says, family comes first. Speaking of which, I'm going to bold out here soon. My in-laws are coming around this morning. Yeah, that happens. And Deborah, thanks for being part of the live stream for however long you're here. Doug says, thanks for the update on the family issues. I didn't want to intrude by asking. I'm glad it's settling a bit. Yeah, it's not the best, but on the other hand, we get to go across the other side of town. And in between everything, I get to hit op shops that I don't normally go to. So I'm trying to look for upsides. The other thing I'm obsessed with at the moment, and you know me, I do get obsessed with things, is in Chinese grocery stores, they've got self-heating meals where you've got rice and you've got a sauce with meat in it and things like that, and a topping. And there's this little sachet, like a canvas sachet full of chemicals that you take it out of the bag, put it in the bottom of the box where all this stuff comes, pour water over it, and then put the rice, the water, and the packet with the sauce in it on top of it, and put the lid on. And this sachet, this canvas sachet, reacts with water and produces heat. And 15 minutes later, you got a hot meal. And I'm obsessed with them. They're all rice dishes, but I'm obsessed with something where the food and the packaging takes care of itself with the cooking. So when we go over the other side of town, there's a big Chinese grocery store. And I pick up these things for like $6 each and get a whole bunch of these self-heating meals. So when I want a light meal, I can just throw water in the bottom of it and it will make me a meal. Deborah says, before I go, thank you so much for recommending the Powell and Pressburger box set. It's set to arrive tomorrow. Great. Terrific. Glad you got it. Racist Chambara says, Laserdiscs were only really used for karaoke machines in the UK and Ireland. Saw lots of them when I used to live in Hong Kong, hence my love of Asian cinema. Cool. Then it says, the new Diabolic is very different from Danger Diabolic. Amazing cinematography. And Monica Bellucci guest stars in 2 of them. I'm sold. You had me at Monica Bellucci. Racist Chambara says, you can also get them self-heating retort in camping meals, MREs. Yeah. I just love the fact that it's all self-contained and I don't have to heat up anything. And I don't have to pull a tab and then have a whole bunch of charcoal burn. These ones are beautiful. Better living through chemistry. Deborah says, be well, everyone, and keep kicking against the pricks wherever you are. We shall. And have fun with the in-laws. Phyllis is here. That food heating method sounds just like lime MREs here in the States. We ate them for weeks after Katrina. Yeah, I'm sure many people did. They're good. I mean, I like the way they work. And the chemicals break down easily. I think it's a calcium chemical of some kind. so it's not gonna mess the environment. But, I usually have a few of them in the cupboard. I've eaten them all. This week I just binged the buggers. But, one of them's got, lapcheung, like Chinese sausage in it, and another one's got mushrooms. It's just a fun way of having food when you're busy. Usually I do it when I'm editing a video and I kinda gotta spend the time here at the desk. And so I'll heat up one of those meals, set a 15-minute alarm, and then just go and grab it. Tom says, "We call them sterno cans back in the day." Yeah, but these ones don't generate flame. They just generate pure chemical heat, and the water you pour over them steams the food. Phyllis says, "That food heating method sounds just like oh, okay, yeah, I've read that one. But yeah, I'm having fun with that. And also picking up things like my oolong tea here from the, Asian grocery stores. We've got a big one here too in Point Cook, biggest, Asian grocery store in Melbourne. Doug says, "You just blew my mind with self-eating meals. I need to see if Chinatown here in Adelaide has them." They may well do. And like I said, they're $6 each, so they're nothing really. And it's, they do have a very limited range of them, but having a couple in the cupboard when you just can't be stuffed cooking is not a bad thing. Gotta be careful with this coffee too, because I went to Aldi and bought this coffee. It's from the Killer Coffee Company, and it's really highly caffeinated, like super caffeinated coffee beans. And so I made myself a pour over coffee in my St. Ali mug, but I've got to watch my heart rate, so I'm gonna be careful about only drinking one of these a day. But, yeah, I mean, I kept finding new and weird little things like that, like the self-heating meals, like the oolong tea. Uh, Also diving into Chainsaw Man and anime, because when I went to see The Long Walk, they had a bunch of anime trailers beforehand, because my local cinema, which is a part of the Village chain, so it's like a big chain cinema. We live in an area with a big Indian diaspora population, amongst other things. And so you get tons of Bollywood and Tollywood action films showing at the cinema along with all of the big Fantastic Fours and all the rest of it. But you also get anime movies, the original video animation movies. And they had a Chainsaw Man movie that I want to go and see at my cinema, because Chainsaw Man's just a mad concept. It's about this guy who's half human, half demon. And when he turns into a demon, he's got a head with a shape like an enormous chainsaw. And he is recruited by a demon hunter to help kill demons. It's just crazy. And I've seen some episodes of the series, just like I've seen One Punch Man. I love One Punch Man. But I may get it back into anime a little bit and have a bit of fun with that. Renaissance Chambara says, you like caffeine, try Lipton's Hong Kong style milk tea. I'll put it in an Earl Grey tea bag as well for flavour. Yeah, Sal's big on the milk teas. She picks those up at the Asian grocery stores. I kind of like them, but I'm more a coffee kind of guy. D. Lee says, at a film festival, I saw an interesting horror film, Grand Ciel, the site, about a crew of mostly immigrant temp workers building an ultra-modern housing complex in France who start disappearing. That sounds cool. Sounds like an alien invasion one, because Grand Ciel is what? Big sky? Yeah. I mean, you gotta keep your eyes out for particularly French, German, Scandinavian, genre movies, because they do it differently than the Americans. The plot beats are different. So you go into the movie and you're expecting the usual 3-act structure plot beats. And a French horror movie or, a German horror movie or a Scandinavian horror movie don't have the same plot beats, and so you get surprised more by the movies, and I'm very much in favor of that. Vanessa Chambara says, "How much are cinema tickets there? I'm paying 14 quid to go and see a rerun of Blade Runner a week Monday." It's complex for me because I'm a member of the Australian Film Critics Association. So I've got a card and I buy an annual membership from the association, which also lets me network with some of the coolest people in the business. And I don't pay for tickets. So I mean, Sal and I are paying for the tickets. We're going to see the original Invisible Man and the Invisible Man Returns at the Astor. And I think for those ones we paid $21. And it's more complicated too because if I was to pay for any tickets, I get a concession for being a pensioner, all that kind of stuff. A lot of people don't go to the cinema much anymore because prices are still a little high. But because I've got that get out of jail free card, I can go and see movies with no charge. For instance, I went and saw The Long Walk at my local, and I just showed them the card. I tell them it's a media comp. I sign my signature and put my name down on a receipt, and they give me a free ticket, which is something teenage me would have loved that. Teenage me would have thought that I achieved the peak of human existence if it had known that at my age I get to go to the cinema for nothing and I get to review things. That would have been the sweet spot for teenage me. But yeah, but I think depending on the session, you pay between $15 and $25. And if you go to somewhere like Gold Class where they have the big reclining seats and they serve food to you while you're watching the movie, I think if you shop right, it's about $30. But yeah, next Sunday we go. No, next Saturday we're going to see The Invisible Man and The Invisible Man Returns at the Astor as part of the Cinemaniacs thing, and that's one of the places where I network and hang out with a lot of the film reviewers and film buffs in Melbourne. So for the first time, I'm going to be taking Sally to that one and introducing her to a bunch of the people. It'll be fun, and I'm going to review the movies as well. Renaissance Chambara says, Midsummer still shocking to me. Hardly recommended if you want to look at Scandi horror. Film critic was almost my dream, but I have to do with being a freelance ad man instead. Yeah, I mean, I kind of looked at the path I took to be a film critic. For 13 years, I was reviewing movies once a week for ABC Radio in Darwin up in the Northern Territory. They'd phone through and I'd review movies with them once a week. Didn't get paid for it because it's a national broadcaster. They don't pay for that kind of content. But it let me learn a lot about reviewing movies and interacting with people and all of that stuff. So I had that apprenticeship. Before that, I did fanzines for a long time, and I occasionally reviewed movies quite poorly in that. Around the turn of the millennium, my friend Ali had a site called Festival where we do the reviews. We get to the previews and do the reviews. So I did that as well. I did podcasts for a long time, but they don't pay. And eventually I hit YouTube. So my apprenticeship in being a movie reviewer is more than a quarter of a century. And, I'm always slow with these kind of things, but I'm kind of happy where I am and moving in the direction I am now. And it has taken a long time, but building the community here with the channel, doing all of that stuff is incredibly fulfilling. Tom says, I've yet to see The Invisible Man Returns. Looking forward to your review of it. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, we're going to have fun. Going to go out for a meal first. I'm going to see if I can grab one of the couches at the back of the cinema because there are couches at the back of the Astor. So we'll score one of those by dumping a bag on it. And then we'll go back into the lobby of the Astor, which is a big old Art Deco cinema with original movie posters on the walls. It's a fantastic venue. And they also have a raffle before the movie where you can win Blu-rays, DVDs, 4Ks, and movie posters and shit like that. So there's all of that as part of it. And the other aspect of it is somebody will give a talk about the movies before we see them on those particular sessions, and that's always fun. Doug says, "What I love about your reviews is you talk to us and not at us." And it makes, if that makes sense. Yeah, it does, Doug. Bottom line is you're talking to one person, which is something I learned from radio. I'm talking about movies on the radio. I'm talking to the presenter, and that then expands to be talking to and with a whole bunch of people. So you just keep that focus. When I'm talking to you now doing a live stream, in my head, I'm talking to one person. Where in reality, at the moment, I'm talking to 17 people. And when the live stream eventually uploads as a completed thing, I'll be talking to a few hundred people. But you don't let that get in your head particularly. You just talk directly at that person who is watching and listening. It's a skill that you can pick up, but I think if you don't do that, you can get very confused and you can get very overwhelmed by going, "Oh, geez, I'm talking to 17 people at the moment," or "I'm gonna be talking to a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand people." You don't let that enter your head. Stay focused on the one person who is watching and listening, and that's the trick of the game. Phyllis says, "Curious is, looked up prices at our local multiplex, $11 USD for an adult. How did this happen? We're supposed to be the home of robber baron capitalists." Yeah, that's it. Um, I think with movies, a lot of people, I think at a certain level, film companies want people to watch things on streaming because their costs are less. They don't have to supply a digital print to a cinema. They just put it on a hard drive and you grab it, which is essentially the way streaming works. And so people who go into cinemas, the movie companies don't particularly care about them as much as they care about long-term audiences. Tom says, "I get a senior discount if it's before 4 p.m." Yep, and that's perfectly legit. I mean, I've got a senior discount for the stuff at the Astor because Palace Cinemas, who own the Astor, offer concession prices. And I also get it when I watch things over at the Reading Cinemas. Occasionally, I will pay for a movie by going to the Reading Cinemas over at Millers Junction because I want to sit in a reclining chair when I watch the movie. And if I've got a few spondulics, I'll just buy the ticket and go and see them there. And Sal prefers the Reading Cinemas to our local. So if there's a movie that both of us want to see, we will pay out the money to go and see it at that cinema. And then we'll go and have some Korean charcoal chicken or something. But yeah, cinemas are expensive. I mean, back when I was a teenager and I was working full time in factories at 15, I used to go leave work about 3:34 because we had an early start. So the working day ended at 3:30 or 4. I'd get on a train, go into the city of Sydney, and even on my paltry wages, I'd watch 2 or 3 movies and get home at midnight and then get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go back to work. And it was cheap enough that somebody on my shitty wage could do that regularly. I didn't do it every night, but I did it like once or twice a week, and prices were less. But then Australia was a very marginal market for a lot of movies in those days. But it did let me see a whole bunch of good films, some of which I wasn't supposed to see legally because with the R rating, they weren't supposed to allow people under 18 into certain films like Boxcar Bertha, Scorsese's Boxcar Bertha. But nobody cared. And even though the law said you got to be 18, you just ask for the ticket and give it and deepen your voice a little bit. And even at 15, I was getting into R-rated movies a lot and seeing all sorts of unseemly films. at a very kind of impressionable age. Doug says, "My problem now at the age of 68 is I go to the cinema, and even if the movie's good, I bloody take a nana nap and miss half the movie. For me, caffeination works, Doug, and also because I'm reviewing the thing, I kind of maintain focus. Like I was seeing The Long Walk, and while I was watching it and really enjoying it and really seeing it hit the notes, I was making notes in my mind for it, which helped." Brian says, "It would be neat if you Blu-ray the President's Analyst has the deleted scene of Schaefer meeting his lover Nan, seemingly by chance in a 1960s style underground movie. Unfortunately, it doesn't, but I'd still enjoy the film. I just love the way Kropotkin, um, played by Seven Darden, interacts with Godfrey Cambridge's character. The two spies, one American, one Russian, one black, one white, are basically you know, brothers. And Kropotkin says, "My country's getting more capitalist, yours is getting more socialist. We're going to meet in the middle someday anyway." Renata Stambara says, "Before going to uni, I used to work shifts. I would go to the Odeon during the day after shift for £3.30 GBP. Go home, sleep, get up at DJ at a local bar, sleep a few more hours, and then work again." Yeah, I had a job once where I worked 30 hours non-stop once a week, basically throwing local newspapers out of a truck. And we worked from Tuesday night till Thursday morning. And I could do that when I was 16 years old. Thomas says, "Back in 1960, admission to kids was only 35 cents for a triple feature." Yeah, when I was seeing double features, when I was a small kid up at the Regal Theatre in Liverpool, I think it was about 80 cents for a double feature. And then you could spend the rest of $5. There'd be two or three kids. Spend the rest of the $5 on lollies or ice creams. There's a whole story about me watching movies as a kid, which I should put into a video. I think that there might be something useful there, though. It does get into the unsavory circumstances of my childhood a little bit. But next time I go to Sydney, I think I might do that and actually go to the locations. I did a video a long time ago about walking around the places I grew up, and that I would like to redo in a slightly different way. And at some stage, I will get up to Sydney, but it's just a matter of when. And I'll couch surf at my sister's place and my brother-in-law's place, and get a few videos under my belt. By the way, is anybody liking the second channel, the travel channel I'm doing? I'm still learning how to do that, and editing it is always a bit of a weird thing because I go, "Why did I film that bit? And why didn't I film that bit? And why didn't I say something here?" It's it's a big learning curve. The way this channel was a big learning curve when I started it, but I kind of like getting out of the house and just doing stuff. Yeah, Renaissance Chambar. I got a second channel. It's called Terry Travels. Give me a sec. I'll give you the link. There you go. Yeah. Well, I just basically travel around locally. Doug loves Terry Travels. I genuinely feel like I'm there with you. That's the whole thing. I'm trying to make it as immersive as I can. And the fact that I've got a good camera on a gimbal, and I will show you my camera, and a decent mic, and it's shooting in 4K 30 frames a second, it really adds to the quality of the videos. I'll just get my camera out. Brian says, "I will never forget Godfrey Cambridge's story in the first day of school in The President's Analyst. It will stay with me forever." Yeah, it's such a good story and incredibly well told. Godfrey Cambridge was such an adept actor. We lost him far too early. He had a heart condition, but shit, he's good in that. Renasa Chambara, subscribe, thanks. But here's the camera. It's a DJI Osmo Pocket, and it's a fantastic little camera. Hang on. There you go. You can see what I'm seeing. And I can go like this, and it turns around to me. You can't see what I'm seeing now. Now you can see what I'm seeing, kind of, sort of. But it's a fantastic camera. It's nice and light. And my other one broke, as I told people on the channel, and I've got this one now. I'm going to at some stage get the other one repaired. But I mean, with this, you can just put in your pocket. It's got a lanyard. I've also got the lapel mic, which hooks up to it through Bluetooth. Actually, it doesn't use Bluetooth; it uses proprietary linking to the camera, and so I can have that up here or attached to me. And after a while, you just forget the mic's there and just talk with the camera. And it's just such a wonderful, useful tool. And it was designed specifically for YouTubers and vloggers. Yeah, Doug, it's a great camera. I love it. It just does everything I needed to do. And I'm a bit more careful with it than I was with the last one, which fell off a tripod because I hadn't clipped it down properly to the tripod. So is there any questions people have? We'll do a bit of an Ask Me Anything because I will answer anything at all. Excuse me. But yeah, the Osmo Pocket's not cheap, but it does everything I needed to do. Now, I'm not using an Osmo Pocket for this because I've got a good webcam up here, and that really works for me, which is actually the Insta360 link. Tom says, "Have I seen Honey Don't yet?" No, I haven't, but I will see it because I kind of like what Ethan Cohen's doing. Was it Joel Cohen? I like what they're doing. Brian likes the travel videos also. Good. I'm trying to build an audience with that. And of course, it is slow. You never build them fast unless you're a pretty woman having a mukbang. But I'm happy to go with the process of building the audience for that. Renata Chambara says, watching this channel makes me think that Australia does better on disc releases than the UK now. I use a region-free disc player and end up buying a lot from US and Asian edition instead. It depends because I know that in the UK there's a ton of good DVD stuff at op shops because Richard, who's a friend of the channel, Dick Powers, has his own channel and he gets such great British releases on DVD from op shops for like a quid each. And I'm intensely jealous of him and what he does there. But I think it's, every country has a specialty. Places like Powerhouse in the UK are doing great releases, and 88 Films and all of those kind of companies are doing great releases. But it does vary, and Australia, with the boutique labels like Umbrella and Imprint, are just releasing some fantastic stuff with tons of extras and tons of additions to them, and tons of things that give you more info about the movies. There is a lot of that there, and it's a very international market for those things. So it helps the balance of trade for Australia to have companies like Imprint and Umbrella. But there are still a lot of companies doing great work elsewhere. Ethan Cohen says, Tom. Okay, Ethan Cohen. Doug says, I often wonder when you do your travel videos and other videos, I watch people really seem to react to the camera. Is it maybe because they're so discreet and they don't see the camera? It is a small camera. It's a lot less in your face than somebody with a big camera. If I've got a little camera like that, it's just like that. But if I've got a full-on camera, which I have a couple of, it's like that. And also people are more used to people vlogging now, and they just accept it, and I appreciate that they do. It's, um it's a different world than it was, say, 3 or 4 years ago, and particularly when I'm in the city or in somewhere close into town, people don't mind the vlogging. I mean, I don't linger on people. I tend to steer the camera away from children because I don't want that to be a part of it, but I try to be discreet when people are walking past me and all that kind of stuff. So there is a bit of an art to it, but inevitably you're gonna get people in the background. But I try to make them part of the scene rather than going, "Hey, look at that person." And I think that works. Uh, Brian says, "I haven't seen Uluru yet." No, I haven't. I wouldn't mind going to there. You can get fairly cheap flights, but accommodation is really expensive. So were I to go there, it'd be like a go there, take a look at it, fly back out kind of thing, because it is prohibitively expensive to stay there because the First Nations owners of the place, who have been screwed over by white Australia for 250 years. I don't mind them getting money back, but I just don't have the money at the moment to do that. Racing Chambara says, I have to buy a lot of stuff released back in the early 2000s in Oxfam shops, eBay. 88 Films does some good stuff. Eureka. Germany and Italy have amazing catalogs on Blu-ray. They do. There's just so much good stuff out there. Tom says, today's technology continues to amaze me and has me wondering what's next. I don't think it's going to be anything revolutionary. It's just going to be like refinement of what we already have. The one thing I love to have, but I can't afford yet, is a small drone. So when I do go on the travel vlogs, I could do some overhead footage, but I don't have the ability to do that at the moment. But it is on the long term ideas for that channel is to get like a $400 drone and lift it up above the land so people can see the land a lot more clearly on the travel vlogs. By the way, if anybody wants to help with that, super chats are available on the live stream. Arasa Chambara says, I deal with influencers for work. Some of the biggest problems I have in vlogging here is having the gear snatched out of their hands by e-bike bandits. That's why I've got the lanyard for the Osmo. You're not going to grab it without taking my whole arm. And I'm also good at being situationally aware. I grew up in some rough areas in Sydney, like very rough areas. And so I'm always, even when I'm vlogging, aware of what's around me. And I'm not inclined to go to places where that's likely to happen. I did Hosier's Lane, for instance, which is a lane full of street art in Melbourne. But I did it early in the morning, and there were only a few people around. One guy was pissing in the corner of the alley, and I kind of steered the camera around him. But I think you pick the times, and people who tend to steal things don't get up until lunchtime. And I also like the feel of a place as early in the morning as I can get. Not necessarily golden hour, which is chef's kiss the best, but getting somewhere before the crowds are there, getting somewhere before people are awake, and entering those kind of crepuscular and liminal times just works better for me. I like places before most of the yobs are awake. And so that tends to be less of a problem for me. Doug says, there is a good channel called HW Tours based in Sydney. Very authentic, like Terry Travels, worth a look. Thanks. Tom says you got what we call street smarts that saved me from a carjacking a few years ago. You got to develop that. I mean, when I was a teenager, I used to go through King's Cross in Sydney at night time, like 2 in the morning nighttime, which is the most dangerous time to be there. It was run by crims like Abe Saffron. It was the red light district of Sydney. It was the tourist centre of Sydney. It was full of strip clubs and bars and pizza joints and other things. But I was smart enough to go, okay, I'm sticking to the bright lights. I'll go down that alley in the daytime, but there's no way I'll go down that alley at nighttime. I'll go around that side street in the daytime, but not at nighttime. There's enough interesting stuff on the bright light parts. So it was just having your spidey sense working for you. And I think that's an easier task for somebody who grew up in a very rough area where you learn it from almost from childhood. And I got king hit by a guy when I was a kid, and I had one of my front teeth knocked sideways. They hollowed it out and took the nerve out and all that kind of thing. And my teeth are bad, so I'm not going to show you. But after that, I really upped my situational awareness because that's just the nature of things. It's horrible. You have to gain those skills, but like a lot of other skills, they're useful to have when you need them. It's like when I was a kid, I spent almost the whole summer learning how to throw a knife, and I threw it into fence palings, like wooden fence palings in the backyard. And I could still throw knives accurately, not over vast distances, but I can do it. Ramzar, thank you for being a part of this, Ramzar. US $4.99, which is about $1,200 Australian. Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. Oh, hang on. As always, super chats get the fart gun. Thank you very much, mate. But yeah, street smarts are essential. Particularly, and the interesting thing is, I've only started vlogging on the streets in the last year. But to do that, I'm using skills that I learned nearly half a century ago, if not a half a century ago. So that's kind of cool. I like the idea that shit I learned when I was a dumb kid has a payoff in our current age. I mean, I went through St Kilda, which not the parts of St Kilda I went through in my last video, but further west of that is a very dodgy area at night. Very touristy now. It's not as interesting as it used to be. But I want to do a walking vlog through St Kilda at some stage. But I'm going to do it in the daytime because at night time, even if I do have the situational awareness and the street smarts, I'm not going to do it at night. Ramsar says, more about movies and TV shows, less personal politics. Thank you. And that's just little old me. Ramsar, we may disagree about some things political, but we'll keep talking about movies. I think I'm learning to accept diversity in opinion when people are of goodwill. But we've got that. And yeah, you can disagree with the politics stuff. It's going to inevitably come up in some videos, but not all of them. And I appreciate you sticking around as well. Brian says, when I was a boy, saw a documentary where children were educated by radio and remote sheep stations in Australia. Yeah, kids did that a lot. I've been to some of those places, but it kind of it was almost like they would talk on the radio to their teacher and to the other students. And it was almost like a primitive internet. It was a small social network, an educational network for kids. And some of the radios were actually pedal powered. So somebody would have to pedal to power the batteries for the radios. And they did that all across Australia. And it was a internet for those small school communities. Peter says, the old Daniel Boone show inspired a generation of knife-throwing kids. Nah, for me, it was Willie Garvin. Phyllis says, oh no, the secret of the mummy's tomb. Renaissance Chambara, £5 UK money. Thank you very much. Hang on. Got to go with the fart gun. You only got a short fart there, so I'll do one more. Thank you very much. £5 UK. That's like 1,100 Australian, I think. Ramsar, my moderate, centrist, pragmatic, personal politics regrets both the MAGA and progressive movements. My 2 cents worth. Fair enough too. Everybody has their own experiences and their own star to steer themselves by. Renee Chambaro, turning in for the night. Enjoy the rest of the stream. Thank you, and appreciate all the input and, of course, the bump. Doug says, it's interesting what you said about being aware. I grew up in a rough area, recently revisited. My whole body language changed instantly. And then when I returned home, I instantly relaxed again. Yeah, you've got to kind of have your head on a swivel, as they say in military war movies. It's like when, and I don't do this very much, and I haven't done it for like 15 years. When I talk to my brother, a code switch to the accent I had when I was a kid. And the accent I had when I was a kid is not the accent I have now. I've got more or less an educated Australian accent. And I grew up with a working class accent. But in my 20s, when I was hanging out with university educated people and people from different backgrounds, my accent switched, and I can code switch between my birth accent and the accent I use now. I can't do it easily these days, but I can still do it. And so when people of color talk about code switching between black communities and when they're interacting with white people, at a certain level, I can totally understand that. I do it myself. I've done it myself. And I did get a little bit of feedback where people from my old environment would say, stop talking posh. And I'm not. It's just that the voices I hear and the people I interact with always influence your accent. It's like when I went to America for 6 weeks in '98. I found out that I could get away with just going, yeah, no. And people would think I was an American. So I was like a spy. I could pretend to be something I wasn't. But yeah, accents are a weird thing. There's one guy I watch on YouTube, and I don't think I'm going to watch him much more. He's a Scottish guy with a thick Glaswegian accent. I'm not going to discontinue my subscription with him for that. I think he does what he does quite badly and doesn't improve it. But I kind of like the fact that I can watch things where people have thick accents. And the more you do that, the more your ear tunes to the ability to understand and instantly pass a different accent. I mean, there are a number of Scottish vloggers I listen to. There are English ones from all over England. There are American ones. There are Kiwi ones. There are people from Canada. I think the more we listen, the more we are able to comprehend different accents. And I think that's such a useful thing, which rolls over into movies as well. Having that ability to understand and instantly go with a number of accents makes it easier to watch certain kinds of movies. Rams, I said 77th Emmy Awards is on Sunday, which is tomorrow, my time. Both Severance and Studio for Apple TV are in the running. Like the Wall Street Journal said, workplace anxiety makes good TV. Yeah, well, having been someone who lived with workplace anxiety for 50 years, it might make good TV, but it makes a shit life. Tom says there are some great YouTube channels that explore American and British accents. Very entertaining, yeah. And for me, some of the best travel vloggers I know are Scotsmen. There's Steve Marsh, his Planes, Trains, Everything. There are also some bloggers from up the north in the UK. Um, I'm so envious of people in England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. You guys can spend $60 and get to another country on another continent. So envious of that because I looked at airfares around here. It costs you a lot just to get to Sydney or Adelaide by plane. To get to New Zealand, it costs you twice that, and anywhere else, it's like $700 or $800, which is one of the reasons why I want to eventually get to the stage of monetizing the travel channel. Because once I start getting a bit of dough for that channel, I can travel further afield. Though there is an interstate trip I want to make on that channel in the next few weeks, maybe months, where I can get to another state for $5 by train. And I'm going to do that. But then the timing works that I've got to get accommodation when I get to that state. And that's where the expense comes in. Doug says, not quite code switching, but my partner laughs when she sees me talking to someone who, shall we say, is very Aussie. She says I go all blokey, which is not me at all. Yeah, we tend to do that, Doug, where if you're talking to somebody with a broad Australian accent, you do code switch. It is code switching. And you do that to make them feel more comfortable and to increase the bandwidth of the communication. I do it when I go to country towns and buy things in pie shops. Uh, yeah, I mean, it might not sound different to people who aren't Australian, but a broad Australian accent and an educated, more or less Australian accent. I love the fact are very different. I love the fact that I've got a somewhat educated Australian accent, even though I left school at 15 and educated myself pretty much. Um, that amuses me a little bit. Uh, I'm going to open up one of the oolong teas and have a little bit of oolong tea because I'm in the mood for it. Yeah, I'm not sure what the next things I'm going to watch as far as movies are concerned are. I may go into the archive up in the back room and find some stuff, or I may find some stuff online. That's not bad. It's not sweetened, no sugar, and I prefer unsweetened teas. Let's see. I think I've got some things in the hard drive I should watch. There's a Hammer film called The Glass Tomb that I found a somewhat bad copy of. Yeah, there's a few things here on the hard drive I want to watch, so I may well do that. Phyllis says, code switching in other climes fits that idea of what we call the grey man. Fit in and be non-threatening. It works for us. Yeah, it's like that travel thing as well. And this is a cliche, but I think it works. If you're going to travel, be a traveler, not a tourist. I won't go on guided tours of things. We never have, Sal and I, because we want to just ramble around and look at random shit. And I've got a supernatural power that you could dump me in a city by parachute. In fact, that'd be fun. But if you dump me in a city with a parachute, within 10 minutes, I'll find the red light district without even trying. It's not that I'm looking for red light districts. It's just that somehow, 10 minutes after hitting a city, I'll find a red light district. And I don't know why, but I've done it in New Zealand. I did it in Paris. I did it in London. I've done it in a number of cities. I did it in Adelaide. I did it in Canberra. I did it in Darwin. I can find a red light district blindfolded. Not that I avail myself of the services of the charming ladies there, but I will find a red light district without ever trying to. It's just the nature of the beast. But yeah, being a traveler, I think you can't go past Anthony Bourdain's idea, where he said if you're going to find a pub, don't go to the bar that's attached to the hotel you're staying in. Ask the people who work in the hotel where they go to drink after work, and then go to that place because it's going to be a much better place. It's going to be cheaper, and it's going to have a lot more atmosphere and a lot more fun to it than a generic hotel bar. And I kind of like that idea. I might try that next time I'm anywhere and just ask the people who work at a place, where do you go for dinner? I think there's a lot to be said for stepping out of the tourist narrative and going randomly places. I mean, back when Sal and I went to Paris, the one time we went to Paris in 2004, we wandered around for a while because we were jet lagged. And so from like 5 a.m. until mid morning, we wandered around the streets of Paris. And Sally said, "We've got to stop." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "My feet are bleeding." She wore the wrong kind of shoes, but I was having such fun. She didn't want to interrupt me having great fun in Paris. And we had to find a pharmacy and get her bandages and scissors and elastic bandages and all sorts of stuff like that for her feet. But the thing is, we traveled around randomly. We went from the Place Vendôme to Pigalle. We went along the Seine. We did like 9 hours of just rambling through a city with the smell of freshly baked croissants in our nose. Fantastic time. Is everybody getting an ad or are you still awake there? Hello, chat. Hello, Clem Fandango. Can you hear me? Anybody watch Toast of London? Oh, that reminds me. As everybody is probably aware, Doug says, technical question. I'm trying to plug up the coach to do a live stream on YouTube. Do you need to do it via third party? Or can you just do it from YouTube Studio? Do it through YouTube Studio, Doug. You can do it through OBS and other things, but there's a learning curve on that. And but do it through YouTube Studio. It's the simplest way. Eventually, I may go into OBS, and I've been fiddling with it, but I haven't really learned it. But just do it is the way to go, Doug. If it flubs, it flubs, and you'll learn from it, and you'll do it again, and it'll be more successful. Just go with it. Phyllis says, "We're awake, just low functioning at the present." Yeah, time zones mess people up. Do I also enjoy watching silent movies? Tom says, "Yeah, I do. I mean, I want to watch the which ones is it? The Vampires. I want to watch that. That's a silent film, and I want to watch the silent Phantomas films and things like that. I've got them on disc. I just haven't got around to them. And there's also some Ernst Lubitsch silents I've got that I really should watch." Peter says, "All good. Just recovering from the heavy metal festival I went to last night." I'll bet your ears are still ringing, Peter. I had such ringing ears when I went to see Henry Rollins in St Kilda, and we sat on the beach for hours afterwards to come down, and my ears rang for 3 days afterwards. Ramsar says, "I'm late in my watching Japanese movies for most of the 50s. Watched 2 by Mizoguchi, 4 by Kurosawa. So I'm watching before more of both, and also Ozu. Ozu, incredible filmmaker. I've got a couple more of his movies apart from Tokyo Story that are sitting on the coffee table waiting for me, and I really should get to them. I think I've got Autumn Equinox or something like that. I think that's what it's called. But I've got a couple of really good Ozu movies I want to watch. Brian says, "I like Toast of London. It was a good thing to see a show about acting and actors." Toast of London is great. Tom says, "Don 1, 1926 is a pretty good one. Estelle Taylor is incredible in it." Yeah, I've seen clips, but I haven't seen the whole thing. By the way, there's a big scandal at the moment in the UK. As people know, J.K. Rowling is a piece of shit. She's actively um, working against and giving shit to trans people. And I have a number of trans friends. And so they're doing this Harry Potter TV series because the cash cow has to be milked. And what's disappointing a lot of people is the number of actors, including Matt Berry from Toast of London, who are on board with um, being a part of that and implicitly giving support to J.K. Rowling. I'm not good with that. I think that somebody who is so actively punching downward to people who need our respect and support, um, yeah, it's just disappointing the number of actors I like who are being a part of that particular organisation. Peter says Asphalt is an excellent 1920s German silent movie on Tubi. Thanks for that, Peter. I'm going to open a link to Tubi and just add it to my list. Hang on. Come on. There it is. Okay, add to my list. Don't stop. Add to my list. Okay, shut up, you. Okay, there you go. Ramsay says Sancho the Bailiff, directed by Kenji Mizoguchi, is fantastic. I've got Sancho the Bailiff. I haven't watched it yet. Doug says, I love Tubi, so many hidden gems. Yeah, I should do another Tubi recommendation video, I think. Not all of them are going to be on Tubi in the same country, but there's still going to be recommendations people can have a go for. By the way, we're getting such a wonderfully sunny day outside, and my Manchurian pear tree in the front yard is full of white flowers, and the leaves are starting to come out. So seasons are changing in the good way for us. But yeah, Tubi is so much fun, and I like the fact that they're very sparing on the number of ads they put in. Something like SBS On Demand, which is one of our national broadcasters, has ads, and they do them a lot more than Tubi does, which is a bit of a shame. Thomas says, I watched The Leech Woman 1958 the other day. It's like an earlier version of The Substance. It is. I'm going to rewatch The Leech Woman because it's a good film. It really is fun. I'm going to put my feet up now. Got a cushion under the desk where I can put my feet up. Yeah, The Leech Woman's good, and The Wasp Woman. That'd be a good double feature, The Wasp Woman and The Leech Woman. Yeah, that'd work. And they're both not particularly long films and very similar in theme. I'll bet The Leech Woman's on Tubi. I will check later on. Any other recommendations people have got? Ramsar says, have I watched Haxan 1922? It's one of those essential art house movies. HBO Max has an excellent selection of classic movies, including many from Janus and Criterion. I have watched Haxan and I got a copy of it as well. That's a wonderfully weird movie. Um, just that kind of expression, the style of it, and the set design, and the risqueness of it. And I'm always big for risque movies. Yeah, it's something different and it's something special and something unique. Some ways it reminds me of Faust, the silent version of Faust. It's got a little bit of that feel, but so much more so. Faust blew me away as well. I've done a video about that too. Weird thing is, I've done all these videos about movies, but I don't have it written down which movies I've done in videos. So I've got to kind of rely on memory at the moment to go, okay, yeah, I've done that on a video. I can't do it in a future video. I've actually made mistakes and done videos about movies twice, but I'm trying to avoid that in future. I don't think it's fair to the audience to have the same movie in two different videos, but inevitably it happened. Doug says, "Here's one for you. She-Wolf of London, obscure and darkly funny, short-lived UK series, hard to find, also called Love and Curses." She-Wolf of London, I like. Has that got June Lockhart in it? I think it might. From the late 1940s. Yeah, werewolf movies are fun. I want to go back and rewatch The Howling. Sequels of that aren't as good, even the one here in Australia with marsupials. But the original version of The Howling just works. And it's got those Rob Bottin special effects, which aren't as good as American Werewolf in London. But they've got a kind of like 1980s charm about them with the bladders under the fake skin, all that kind of stuff. Peter says Buster Keaton's a general on Tubi is a must see. I've seen the general, I love it. Tom says I have the She-Wolf of London on a grey market box set. It's not the movie from 1946. Okay. She-Wolf is a 1980s TV show, no big names in it. That's interesting. I'll have to keep the chat there and find it. There was a werewolf series in the 1970s too with Chuck Connors playing the bad werewolf in it. I also want to rewatch Kolchak the Night Stalker series. The two television movies I like, and I've got them on Blu-ray. But I might want to revisit the series at some stage. Ramsar says, create a list on Letterboxd. I have created many, for instance, I'll create one. Best movies of 1977 ranked. If I was going to do a best movies of 1977, I deliberately leave out Star Wars just to piss off people. But that's the way I am. One thing I want to do in a video is I've actually got John Baxter's biography of George Lucas. And the original ideas George Lucas had for Star Wars are simply fucking crazy. Crazy bad. Because Star Wars only exists because George Lucas couldn't get the rights to Flash Gordon. There's been so much retconning of George Lucas making Star Wars and so much fake narrative by the movie studios, particularly Lucasfilms. Like it was always supposed to be a trilogy. No, it wasn't. It was a one-off, and George Lucas didn't even know whether it would kill his career or not. There's just so much misinformation about Star Wars. Like Harrison Ford was having an affair with Carrie Fisher when she was 18 during that movie, and nobody talks about that. Doug says you may find it under its American title, Love and Curses. It stars a guy who played Biggles in the Biggles movies. I think I'm the only person who liked it. Cool. D. Lee says the General's a great film. Also recommend Buster Keaton's Battling Butler and Our Hospitality. Yeah, Keaton is so much fun. For me, first time I saw Buster Keaton was in one of the Beach Party movies. Ramzar said number one movie in 1977, Sorcerer by William Friedkin. I like Sorcerer, but I kind of like Wages of Fear more. I think Sorcerer is honest and good, and I don't disagree with you, Ramzar. But I think Wages of Fear, for me, just feels more real in a weird way. Hi, Cinema Dave Media. Nice to catch a live stream. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, we're doing fine here. Hope you and Jesse are doing good too. It's good to see you putting out vids again. And people should check out Dave's channel as well. Tom says, Boomer Doug, I watched it twice. It played the theme for laughs and works well. Yeah, just so much good backfilling we can do with series and stuff. All good there, says Dave, even though it's getting autumnal where you are. Yeah, I'm really gonna have to dig into. I've got some hard drives full of stuff I've downloaded, and I look through the hard drives and go, "Yep, there's some good stuff there. There's some really good stuff there." And Wages of Fear is on Tubi, but unfortunately not subtitles. Is better. I've got the disc, so I'm kind of set up for that. But I love the fact that someone like Yves Montand is in Wages of Fear, and like Eddie Constantine, Yves Montand started out as a song and dance man in the cabarets of Paris, and ends up making all of these gritty movies. I kind of like that arc. Ramsar said both Wages of Fear and Sorcerer are excellent. Personally, I prefer Sorcerer. Yeah, I mean that's perfectly valid, Ramsar. But for me, I like Wages of Fear. D. Lee says you could say that George Lucas wanted to be Jean-Luc Godard, but ended up being Walt Disney. I'm not sure he wanted to be Jean-Luc Godard particularly, even though THX 1138 does have a little bit of Alphaville about it. Yeah, he ended up being Walt Disney in the worst way, selling Lucasfilms to Disney, even though it did. I mean, I'm not as pissed off with that as I am with Marvel being sold to Disney, because I think Disney's sticky fingers have diminished what Marvel can do. By the way, if you haven't watched it, season 2 of Peacemaker is really fun. I'm enjoying that series enormously. I'm a big James Gunn fan, and there's a new episode out in a day or two. I'm looking forward to that. This is a silent bit I'm going to cut out of the re-edit. The other thing I do, by the way, in case people are wondering, is I will go through the live stream after I've finished it and do an annotated, edited version, which I'll upload to the main channel. It's a little bit easier for people if I do that, and I can cut out all of the glitches and the silences, and also put up some graphics of the stuff we're talking about. And I kind of like doing that. And also, it gets a slight bump on the live stream, even though it's not as interactive as the live stream. It still gets some help. By the way, I was going to mention this. If people use YouTube on mobile, there's a new thing where you can hype a video. When you bring up YouTube on a mobile phone and you've got the first comment that comes up there, if you swipe left on that, there's a button that comes up called hype. And if you like a particular video, you can press hype, and that then means that video gets sent to more people. It's a new thing YouTube's done. It's only on mobile at the moment. But if you feel like it and you're fiddling around with your mobile, you can always hype a video to a mine if you want to help the channel. Doug says, I just found She-Wolf of London on YouTube. Just type in the title followed by TV series. Someone has uploaded it, and all of you will love it. Cool. What am I going to do after this live stream? I'm just trying to work out what I'm going to watch. I may watch the inside of my eyelids because I've only had 4 hours sleep last night. That sounds like a good thing to do. Then I'll watch something. Ben Ed said, I thought it was Monday when I saw you live streaming today and panicked that I should be heading for work. Relax, Ed. I'm doing this a day early because tomorrow I've got to take the car in to get some bumps repaired on it. I'm not going to have the car for 4 days. I've also got a doctor's appointment at 10 a.m. So Monday wasn't good this week. Dealey says, Terry Talks Movies, the director's cut. Yep. The director's cut sounds like circumcision for some reason. But yeah, I'll do that with some of the live streams if it seems apt. And I don't mind doing that. I also did another one where the audio didn't come out right for some reason. So I did some internet magic with it and fixed up the audio and uploaded it again because I wasn't happy with the audio on the first go round. For some reason, it defaulted to the audio I hadn't tweaked, and it sounded tinny to me. And I got Sally in and said, "Does this sound weird to you?" And she went, "Yeah." So occasionally you're going to get two versions of one video or one live stream, but it's always with the intention of improving it for the audience. Kate Hodge, an American actress, says Tom plays the lead in She Wolf of London. She's terrific in the role. Thank you. Ramsar said, I just checked out Wages of Fear on Tubi. It's crazy that it has no subtitles. I watched it again not too long ago on HBO Max and it had subtitles. It's from the Criterion Collection. Yeah, I mean, I love Wages of Fear. And it's got that grittiness I really like in certain French cinema. It almost feels like a French crime movie at the time, even though it's more like an adventure suspense film. This oolong tea is really nice. It's not too strong, but it's just got enough of what I need in it. Yeah, I've got a few Criterion movies. When I got the Powell and Pressburger box set that Imprint sent me, and thanks again to Imprint for that, I had to make the decision: do I keep my Criterion of The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp and the Criterion I have of Black Narcissus? And I kind of decided that for now I'm going to keep both. The box set is great and has a ton of extras I like. I particularly like the way they curated that box set. But I'm also keeping the Criterion editions I've got because they have different extras. And Colonel Blimp and Black Narcissus are top tier movies. So I don't mind having the duplication. Ben Ed said, just received my Criterion Barry Lyndon on 4K. That's my Sunday set. Yeah, why not? I'm not particularly a fan of Barry Lyndon. I mean, technically I like it, but Ryan O'Neill's not an actor I've got a lot of time for. But I appreciate the quality of Barry Lyndon without liking it, if you know what I mean. D. says, Hell Drive is a film very influenced by Wages of Fear. That's good. And has a cast of actors who are going to be TV and film icons. Yeah. I've talked about Hell Drivers on the channel. I mean, you got going upwards, you got David McCallum, you got Patrick McGowan, you got Stanley Baker in there, you got Sean Connery, you got Sid James, William Hartnell. Just a crazy ensemble where they basically decided to put a whole bunch of Wolverines into a pot and slam the lid on it and make a movie. Hell Drivers is just such an underrated small film. And it shows that casting is just so crucial to a movie. And having all of these swinging dicks in one movie is just amazing. And the story is good too, about workers being exploited by management, a universal theme. And I really like Herbert Lom's in it as well. I like Herbert Lom in Hell Drivers as well. Just an amazing film. And again, it's one of those movies I saw late at night on TV and went, fuck, this is good. Ramsar said, I think the Imprint PMP ones are in 4K. No, they're not. They're Blu-ray, but it's the extras and the contextualization that I like. I have the ones from Criterion. They're only Blu-ray. Colonel Blimp, Black Narcissus, Red Shoes. Great colors. Absolutely. I want to get Tales of Hoffman in a better quality in a better quality copy than I have. I've just got the DVD of it, but I still love the movie and I'll still watch the DVD. But I'm hoping that the second Powell and Pressburger set that Imprint will inevitably do will have Tales of Hoffman on Blu-ray. And I also have the 4K of Peeping Tom, Michael Powell's movie, which on 4K looks fantastic because the previous versions I've seen are online versions and a very poor DVD copy, which didn't use great original material for the source of the movie. But I'm very glad I got the 4K, and I got it at one of those moments when JB Hi-Fi had 30% off Blu-rays and 4K, so I picked up Peeping Tom then. But yeah, Pell and Pressburger were just so far ahead of the game in English cinema at the time, and they weren't appreciated for decades to the extent they are now. And I even like Michael Powell's Australian movies like Age of Consent and They're a Weird Mob. Those two movies are an outsider's view of Australia, absolutely. But I think allowing for the slight ickiness of Age of Consent, I really like both of those films. Oh, I did see Helen Mirren in something this week too. I watched The Thursday Murder Club on Netflix based on Richard Osman's novel, and I kind of enjoyed it. It was better than I expected it to be for a movie released on Netflix. About a whole bunch of pensioners in a nursing home who solve murders, kind of like Only Murders in the Building, but different. The murder mystery's good. The acting is superb. It's got Helen Mirren, it's got Pierce Brosnan, it's got Ben Kingsley, Celia Imrie's in it. Paul Freeman from Raiders of the Lost Ark's in there as well. Ramsar said, I did purchase Tales of Hoppin' and the Criterion Blu-ray in late 2020, July 2025, but still haven't got around to watching it. Too much other stuff. Too much other stuff should be on a t-shirt. Like, I'd watch it, but there's too much other stuff, because that's definitely a problem that we all have. So many things I want to see, too much other stuff. And also for some very top quality movies, sometimes for me, I've got to be in the right mood for them. If I'm going to watch an Ozu movie I haven't seen, I know I'm going to be emotionally touched by it in some way. And so I've got to be in the right mood for it at the time. And that, of course, the Ozu movies are something where you want to be able to give them your full undivided attention. They're not going to be casual watches when you're going to pause it and go and feed the cats, or pause it and go and pick up the mail and then come back to it. You want to have it as a seamless an experience as possible. And too much other stuff. Part of the other stuff, of course, is life. Things happen in life unexpectedly that interrupt our movie watching. Brian says, it would be great for US collectors if someone would release Pal and Pressburger's Oh Rosalinda and the Elusive Pimpernel. That they could well be in the next imprint box set. I have no information about what's going to be in that, but I'm hoping things I like I Know Where I'm Going and The Small Black Room are in that next collection. Both of those are fantastic movies and have kind of the feel. Each of them has a feel that's quite unlike other films. I think Powell and Pressburger are so powerful influence on other films as well that giving them prestige releases is something that's totally worthwhile. And I know there are a lot of people here in Australia that complain about kind of quality releases where there's lots of extras, but there is a price tag to that. And I totally understand not being able to afford stuff you really love to have. That's been my story most of my life. But if you pick carefully and put your pennies away. I think it's worthwhile having within your collection a curated lot of movies that are unequaled anywhere else. I mean, I came from, and a lot of you did too. I came from an environment where you couldn't own movies. It was unreasonable for anybody to own a copy of a movie. We didn't have tapes. We didn't have discs. We didn't have streaming. And the only way you could watch a movie is be in front of your TV in that one moment every 2 years when it shows up on TV, or go to a cinema miles and miles and miles away at the one time that movie's showing in that cinema. I did that with Hammer horror films in Sydney. I went 40 kilometres on public transport across town to see Hammer horror films in Bondi Junction when I lived at Liverpool. So I've got just such an appreciation of being able to own a movie, let alone a room full of them, that every now and then I kind of count my blessings on that. Ramzar says, Yasujiro Ozu was incredible. Died way too early at 60, like Stanley Baker at 48. Yeah, Stanley Baker died because of smoking, unfortunately. And there are so many actors who did. I mean, Bogart was only 57 when he died because of smoking. If he had have lived, he would have been the perfect person to play Noah Cross in Chinatown. And he would have only been in his early 70s. But rather than John Huston playing Cross in Chinatown, there's an alternate universe somewhere where Bogart gave up smoking and nailed that character. You could tell he had the chops to do it. You just look at the Cane Mutiny. But unfortunately, because of that addiction to nicotine, we lost too many people too bloody soon. Yeah, Ramsey says, way too much smoking and drinking back then. Tom says, yeah, Bogey would have been better. I agree. Not to say for one moment that John Huston wasn't great in that role, but Humphrey Bogart would have blown it out of the water. Dennis says, I gave you a shout out on a comment I made on to Robert Meyer Burnett via John Campea's show when he mentioned he just got the science fiction of Deefa box set. That box set is great. I just love that box set of Deefa movies. Peter says, yeah, I was born then waiting for the TV guide to come out to see what Bill Collins and Deadly Ernest were showing. Yeah, that struggle was real. From a movie buff's point of view, we live in a golden age. Whether we can afford the Powell and Pressburger box set or not, you can go to an op shop with $5 in your pocket and get some really fine films for $1 each if you look around. We really are fortunate. Brian says, I shared the same experience that you have with film. Young people I know are sick of hearing about the old days. I'm talking to the old people now. Yeah, I mean, it contextualizes how you are as a film buff and how you can appreciate it. I mean, what I can compare it to is there was a time in my teenage years when I had no food and I couldn't eat for 5 days. And I went through so many emotional roller coasters during those 5 days when everybody I saw on the street had a full belly. And mine was rumbling and I shed weight and my body started eating my muscles. And then my unemployment check came through and I could buy food. And so I've always had a different relationship to food after that. And as my size can tell you, I appreciate it a lot more than I did when I was young. By the way, Dennis, thank you for that shout out. Yeah, so movies are the same. The fact that we were on a starvation diet of movies in our formative years makes our approach to cinema a lot different than younger people's. Rams, I said, looking forward to my midday doubleheader coming Tuesday. The Long Walk and Downton Abbey grand finale. The latter is what you easily dismissed as wealth propaganda. Yeah, that's not for me, but I hope you enjoy it. Seriously. Downton Abbey is not my jam at all, but I appreciate a lot of people do like it. Doug said, I sent a link to your Patreon for She-Wolf of London. Genuinely think you'll love the show. I would love to see you do a video on it. Thanks, Doug. I'll check it out. Not sure if I'll do a video on it, but I appreciate the effort. Uh, yeah, just so much. So is there anything? We've got 5 minutes to go. Any last minute questions? Any last minute things people want to say before we wrap this little bugger up? Just trying to think what I want to watch next. Dennis says, No Hawley's Alien Earth is the chef's kiss, and Foundation Series 3 finale was a jaw dropper. Foundation is renewed for Series 4. I've got to watch Foundation. Haven't watched it yet, but I really should dip into it. Phyllis says, when will Luna get a shot at editing? When she's evolved about 5 million years, which is not likely. She doesn't have the attention span for editing. Occasionally, when I'm trying to edit, she will jump up on me here and sit and interrupt my editing, but that's the extent of it. Tom says, where am I taking you next on the Travel Channel? There's a couple of possibilities. I want to do a walk along the local river here at Werribee and see if I can spot a platypus or something. But it may be that, or I may go into the city because I know a place in the city that has a statue of a horny angel. So I may well go into the city and do a wander around some odd corners of Melbourne City where I know there's cool stuff. At this stage, I still haven't decided whichever one's easiest. I don't have the car for 4 days this week, so it may well be going into the city and just rambling around. So I think that's what's happening on the Travel Channel. And I love the horny angel statue, which is in public too. It's not like it's hidden in a museum or something. It's in public down near Queen Victoria Market. Oh, one other big news. I found out that the Mission Impossible series may be ending because the studio can't see it making any money without Tom Cruise. And the last 2 Mission Impossible movies only just broke even, apart, including Tom Cruise. So that franchise may be dying for the immediate future. Brian says, even better than the statue of the dancing platypus. I love the dancing platypus at Werribee. Great statue. Ramsey said, cheers all Emmy Awards tomorrow. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see which, particularly the comedic talk shows, which ones get the awards there. Okay, so we'd have Terry Talks Movies, the director's cat instead, says Dealey. Yeah, Luna's just not interested. It's not her specialty to edit videos. She will watch some YouTube videos with me, but then the other ones she just ignores. She tends to like Scottish accents on YouTube videos, and I've got no bloody idea why. But you'll watch Steve Marsh travel videos on YouTube. Peter says, we all have the mall pig statues here in Adelaide. Cool. I think I've seen them. I've also seen that big mirror ball you got in Adelaide. Really should get back there someday. Got friends there I can hang out with. So it's almost time to go. We really must knock that naughty clock that says it's time to go. It goes so fast. Our time has passed. And we must end our show. So thanks to everybody who's been part of this, all the usual things. I know all of you are subscribed, so don't do that. Give the video a thumbs up. Do all the likey things as well. Leave a comment. Brian says it was fun hanging out, and I hope you have a good day where you are. I will. I'm going to go get some more sleep, and then I'm going to have a good day hanging out with Sal and probably watching a couple of movies. I think I'll watch Together. There's a new movie out called Together, which has got some fun body horror in it. So I may well watch that. But anyway, everybody, look after yourselves. Take care of yourselves. Times are weird. Don't let the weirdness get into your heart. I'll catch you guys later. Take care.